to say some prayers. And this helps us set an intention. So we always want to try to remember to set an intention when we begin anything, just in order to remind ourselves of what's the point, so that we don't waste our lives, so we don't, waste our time. So we remember why we do things. Sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm going out to lunch because I want to reconnect with a friend, and so may I be mindful of that with what my speech is like, all those kinds of things, so we can be having a good experience together, and show up to a Buddha center, then it's like, oh, maybe I want to learn a little bit more about the teachings and then how to apply them in my life or whatever. So, but you don't want to do it just for yourself. We always want to remember that what's the point of that? It's not just for ourselves. It's so that we can, have better relationships, so we can interact with the world, in a better way. So that not only, do we feel better, but we also share that energy with others, the good stuff, as well as, whatever, we connect, so that our practices can help us connect. So I'm going to what page am I going to? 98. So page, I'm going to put it up on the screen, but you can find it in the book on page 98. Is that right? Yes, I start with that. Can you tell I haven't done this in 2 weeks? Oh. My Zoom screen is, okay, there we go. Share. I will get there. So for those of you who are comfortable or feel Buddhist, however you want to look at it, we start with taking refuge. So don't feel like you have to recite it. It's not your thing. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So those of you who are not Buddhist, you can just think about, what is it that that you rely on, and then, and you want to keep those things in mind, that we need to remember our values, what we hold dear, so that we will act from that place, not just kind of follow our habit energy or or what we want, but we, interact with each other. So to help us be mindful of that, we'll recite the 4 immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. I never get to see what the screen looks like. I know what it looks like on my computer. It looks different on other screens. So, curiosity. All right. Do. So, everybody learned lots from Venerable Rabina. Yay! Yeah, to say the least. Yes. Good. All right. So those of you who went to the Karma teachings, you got either learned something new or refreshed what you studied before or thought about before. I don't know what one was on the mind, I think. Any questions that bubbled up that you didn't have the nerve to ask? Mm-hmm.
Well, first, I'd like to thank everyone that was involved in seeing her, allowing her to be here. It was transformative.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask a little bit about the transformation, because for me anyway, she dropped two bombshells. One was that Buddhists don't approve of abortion, and the other is that Buddhists don't believe in God.
Mm.
So I guess my question is, well, I approve of abortion personally under certain circumstances, and I believe fervently in some kind of energy that some people call spirit or God or whatever. I don't know what it is. I'm kind of agnostic about what its existence is, but I believe in something. So I guess my question is, in your view, do you see any hypocrisy whatsoever in continuing to follow Buddhist teachings, even though those two big cornerstones,
they're not really cornerstones,
conflict with a person, me in particular?
Yeah. The Buddha himself said, question everything, investigate everything, don't take my word for it. So no, there's no, as long as you're finding benefit to your body, speech, and mind, then it's worth doing. It doesn't matter.
I'm finding enormous benefit from all the other teachings, so I'm okay with.
So you're thinking about it, because it is important to really understand that Buddhism doesn't have a creator God. It doesn't mean there's not, we say that our consciousness creates our, world. So it's not some outsider, so, and that things are not, the only thing that we really mean by that there's not a God is that there's nobody out there creating things. There's no one judging. There's, none of that is separate. We create the cause. Our own actions of body, speech, and mind create the cause of whatever it is we experience. And our consciousness never ends. It never began. It never ends. So even some physicists are starting to look at consciousness as possibly being a force in, physics. So it depends on how you define God. Buddhism holds that things are not permanent. They can be eternal, but they're not permanent in the sense of unchanging. So our consciousness is eternal, but it's constantly changing, changes moment to moment. We are not fixed. My continuum of consciousness does not determine who I am. It's just a series of moments of mine, my habits, my choices, the my is just a label, but this stream of consciousness is operating from what it knows. And that's usually habits, a lot of misinformation, like ignorance. So that's the trouble with jargon, isn't it? I mean, it's just difficult. Buddhas start as ordinary beings. They become enlightened through their work with their minds. They don't come that way. They are just like us. We all have Buddha potential. We all have Buddha nature. Yeah.
Is consciousness infinite?
I don't even know what that means.
Forever and ever and ever and ever?
It's eternal.
It's eternal. Okay.
When our consciousness, like a Buddha's consciousness, an enlightened consciousness, pervades everything because there has no boundaries. So you could look at it as infinite in that sense. An enlightened mind, all enlightened minds are pervading everything right now. Because their awareness is everywhere. There's no ignorance. This is a big, I don't expect anybody to comprehend this because it's kind of, whoa, So, but to me, it makes sense that if you've removed all your obstacles to knowledge, then your mind would be everywhere because that's the only way to have knowledge of all things and all beings, all consciousnesses. So it's not like one massive consciousness, but it's, because they all have their own continuums, all the streams of consciousness, but it's not like we can tell the difference. They all are enlightened minds, all have the same qualities. So it sort of doesn't matter one way or the other. So the abortion issue, that comes under, of course, how can Buddhism support abortion when abortion is killing? Yeah. We don't support killing, period. That doesn't mean anybody's going to say, you can't do this. Like I'm totally against laws against it. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think we respect the rights of women. So, is there something personal in that? Probably. I'm glad I'm not of reproductive age now. Yeah.
Can we go over how to gently discuss?
No.
Like people killing fish or?
No, that's not the topic today. But also, I don't have answers to things like that. I can't say there's a magical way. First of all, unsolicited advice from others is usually not welcome. So you have to really ask yourself why you're having a conversation with someone who disagrees with you. If they ask you how you feel, that opens the door.
Maybe they don't know. They don't think about it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But that's okay. They don't think about emptiness either, and they don't think about Buddha, and they don't think about it, yeah. We have to look at why do we feel like we have the right to educate the world on subjects that they, that's trying to control others. Mm-hmm. And that's not our job. Our job is to get control of ourselves, to choose what we do. So if somebody ever asks us, why didn't you put down your dog? Then that's an opportunity to explain it. Lee, did you have a question?
Yeah, so when like I'm taking care of some feral cats, she talked a bit about whispering in their ears during transitions and stuff. And so how does a cat, if it doesn't have a mind to come out of
Still
sorry. How does a cat, if it doesn't have a human mind that can do the work, find
you've been a cat so many times you can't even count.
It's like Buddhism. You need to have these kind of actions to come back as a human, right?
Yeah.
So how does a cat?
It takes a long time for a cat to exhaust the karma to have a human birth. And trust me, we exhaust our human karma too. And we end up born back as a cat.
Right.
Or a mosquito. Or, whatever.
It's not exhausting the karma, but they don't necessarily do the work.
Well, think about domestic pets. Do you think they do any work that might create the cause for them to?
For sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
So broaden your mind. So it's not So it really is important to understand that when we feel passionate about an issue, that doesn't mean we can destroy someone else's peace of mind by trying to get them to see my point of view. That's not what we're here for. You know, doesn't mean that we don't take the opportunity when we have it, you know, but until we can let go this sense of they're doing something wrong, it's hard to be gentle about what we're trying to convey, you know.
So my question, dovetailing a little bit on what was saying about following the Buddhist way in terms of euthanizing. So I have put 2 of my cats down because they were suffering so much and there was nothing to relieve the suffering. So in my thinking, if the Buddhist path for me is to eliminate suffering, to relieve suffering, I don't know how to, for myself, come to terms with that action.
Okay, well, we'll talk. I mean, we can discuss that sometime,
Oh, okay.
but we can take this particular event and go for months talking about it.
No,
Because there isn't an answer.
right.
There isn't an answer. Mainly what we want to learn to develop is our ability to go within and be sure that our actions come out of compassion for others, not because it suits us. You know, not because we can't tolerate their suffering. Do you need me to use the microphone?
If you like, yeah.
Well, no, I don't care about it,
Okay.
but do you need me to?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
No.
I can't talk over Mary Ann, so
Can
Just
I
kidding.
ask something?
yes, please.
So I get back to what you just said about where our actions are coming from. So is the intention always important?
Always,
Always?
always. Intention matters a lot. But it's not that the action, this is why we have to be careful. There's a story of the Buddha before he was a Buddha. So he's like a really advanced bodhisattva. Excuse me while I get the microphone. I'll try not to shout once I get it on. Does this work? Hello?
Put it on.
It's
Is it
on.
not
Oh,
working?
it's not, nothing's happening.
I turned the machine on back here.
Hello? How about this one?
That one would probably work.
Hello? It doesn't sound on. Is this on? Which one's on?
This is on. Yeah, it should be on.
I think it's the. Which one? Both of them?
It should both be. Yeah, it should be working.
Is this working?
The young
Ah,
guy
yes,
will,
yes.
the young guy will know how to do it.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
It's loud enough? You want me to turn it up?
yes, please.
Turn it up. This is complicated with glasses. Turn up the volume, please.
It's working from there.
It's working on there.
I know, but the person who needs it said she could
Oh.
use it higher.
Yeah,
Is there a volume on this?
Yeah, no, I think. it's
Hello?
fine.
Do you want me to hold it?
No, that's not.
That's going to be hilarious
Nah.
because it's going to end up over here. Okay,
You can hold just the bike. I put the volume on.
you put the volume up, so now I probably don't need to do that.
There you go.
Is good enough?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Thanks. Okay. So intention. Yes, intention always matters. So the story of the Buddha, before he was a Buddha, I really wish I could remember the name, but he was on a boat with a ship captain he had clairvoyance, this bodhisattva, because clairvoyance is part of the skills you acquire as you develop your mind. So this Buddha, pre-Buddha, could read the mind of the ship captain and realized he was going to kill everybody for a reason. I can't remember the reason, some negative reason. So the Bodhisattva said, oh my goodness, in his mind, oh my goodness, that's a very terrible action. That ship captain's going to be in the hells for 200, for the death of each person he plans on killing. I cannot bear that. So he killed the ship captain. Now, making that decision, what do you need?
Intention, bodhicitta, compassion, wisdom, bodhicitta.
Huh? Clairvoyance.
Yeah.
You have to know that's what's going to happen. You can't think it. Oh, he looked like he was trouble. He seems greedy to me. That's not good enough. So one of the things about euthanasia is if you can't know the mind of your pet, we all know people can be in physical pain and have their mind still be at peace. We don't know where they're going next. This is the argument Lama Zopa Rinpoche would say. We don't know where they're going. You think putting them to sleep, killing them in this life is going to guarantee that they'll be okay. No, they can be born in the hell realms. You know, so we need to understand karma really well to understand why the Buddha taught this view, because he could see what happens to all the beings at the time of death, So it comes through the Buddha's understanding that he was able to have because he developed his mind to the point where there were no obstacles to his mind pervading all minds. Okay. Now we're just ordinary little folks, right? His Holiness said, if it's, keeping someone alive in your family is bankrupting you, it's causing great harm to the person's loved ones, then maybe you can consider ending treatment. So he's not saying that it's absolute only this way. It depends.
Right.
Everything is a dependent arising. But what I ask of people is that you really make sure you're choosing this action out of compassion for the being, not because you can't tolerate what you're experiencing with that being. It's like my father had Alzheimer's. I spent 3 years taking care of him, and it was as bad as you could imagine. And yet I would have never killed him. That wouldn't have been my choice. And that's what I kind of use. If I wouldn't kill a human being in this circumstance. Now, some people would. I mean, that's euthanasia. People in Oregon can choose to die, but no one chooses for them. So I mean, I think it's a really complex issue. Now, I'm not saying everybody who's ever put their animals down is somehow evil or straight to hell or whatever. I don't know, because I don't know what's in their mind. So we just want to, this is why intention matters, and we need to really keep checking up. Am I doing this for me or for my pet? So that we're clean. So we have a really clean motivation that's not predicated on what we want. So
It's getting back to intention.
it's always intention.
Yeah.
And wisdom.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, maybe don't do anything, you know? So it's not easy. None of these subjects are easy. And there is no answer. That animal, whether you kill them or not, it's going to go on to another life. You know, in that sense, our consciousness, our stream of consciousness can never end. You know, but what we do want to do is create conditions for beings to have peaceful deaths, so that, you know, so we do the best we can to do that. And I'm not saying what that is. I don't know what that is. It depends. Bijan, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. It did. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So our understanding of karma should help us, you know, understand why intention is so important. Because what karma says, then that just means our actions, body, speech, and mind, create the cause for everything we experience in the future. So our positive states of mind, our positive speech, our positive actions of body is what leads us out of suffering. You know? Yes.
One of the arguments against karma really that
Ar-
if it was really, if karma was really something that happens, wouldn't we have memories of our lives to learn from it? Because if you're not thinking of learning lessons, if you're not
You should
taking-
read Lama, because that's the life story of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and he talks about his previous life memories.
But I would say like most people, they don't have previous.
Yeah,
life
because we
memories.
don't have a developed mind. We don't remember it. We're so caught up in the whatever life we're having.
Yeah.
We don't remember the previous life. But this is something that very early on, if you develop calm abiding of mind, which means that you can hold your concentration on whatever object you choose for as long as you want without being distracted away from it, even if you're like walking around, you know, you have clairvoyance. That's one of the first side effects of that. You'll start to remember your own past lives.
So when you go into another life with a cat, in that example, I mean, does a cat have the ability to say, "Oh, I'm being punished because I was in good by
It's not a punishment.
so let me."
It's not a punishment. It's an effect. If you stub your toe,
It hurts.
it hurts. You know, you kill somebody. Guess what? When they kill you back, it hurts. It's just cause and effect. It isn't somebody out here judging, oh, this person needs to go here. It isn't like that. It's what the Buddha observed is what happens when people die and their karma ripens. Now, the cat can't remember that, but the cat eventually will be born a human because we all have Buddha nature. You know, just like our cat, we see that our pets have compassion, right? They even show how rats have compassion.
Yeah.
And they don't get a lot of love from us. So we didn't teach them. They just have it. Buddhism uses that as the reason, the explanation, the proof of Buddha nature. Because that compassion is naturally there. We have it. And we can develop it fully and remove all the pollution of our negative states of mind. So it's not out of greed, so it's not out of what's in it for me, so it's not out of anything else. You know, so karma is a big topic. I mean, it takes a lot of, it took me years to have confidence in the law of cause and effect. And do I know it's true? No, of course I don't know it's true because I don't have but everything about the teachings makes sense to me. Cause and effect operates everywhere, all the time. And all it does is introduce this other thing that our consciousness matters. Our consciousness has effects, which to me is very simple in the sense that, you know, you plant a seed, you know, and if you get all the right conditions, it will grow. What had to happen there? What's in addition to the seed?
Intention.
You had to plant it. We have crops because we plant them. That's consciousness. Someone decides to do these things. We impact the world through our thoughts and our actions that follow those thoughts. Yeah,
Right action,
it's both. You know, you can't have right effort if you don't have right thought. You can't have right speech if you don't have right thought. Bijan, yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. Someone brought up, I guess, being reborn as a cat, I think. If I heard them correctly. But so they said it was a punishment. So I guess my question is, so in the biological sciences, we kind of think of life as having a hierarchy with humans being at the top. So maybe that might be why we think of it as a punishment. But in reality, we're all just, we're all beings capable of emotions and stuff. So my question is, if you're reborn as like a dog or something,
Yeah,
rather than being a punishment, could that just be like
it's an effect.
constant effect.
Just get rid of the whole idea of punishment. It doesn't fit in Buddhism at all. There's no
well, I
such
guess
thing.
could it be like a reward? Oh, like I know there's no moral judgment here,
So
but
let go of those words. Those words are not helping. Those are just
Okay.
labels that it is not helping. It's simply, you know, all of us, if we look at our lives, we have mixed things happening, right? We have some, if you know, if karma's true, we have some negative things ripening. We have some positive things ripening. We all have, you know, good traits of our appearance and our skills and and we all have some lousy ones. You know, we have good health, good parts of, you know, our bodies have some good health and some bad health, and we all have a terminal illness. You know, these bodies will die, you know, so it's not linear. Cause and effect's not linear. Look at it. There are all sorts of causes and conditions that have to happen for anything to arise. We can plant seeds until we're blue in the face, but if there's not other things like water and nutrition and sun or whatever, you know, that particular seed requires, it won't grow. So intention won't help that.
It's safe to say that the majority of the world does not believe in karma because
We don't care. I don't care whether the whole world.
But they might say they do, but the world would be utopia because everyone would get to this point where they would say, "Oh, because my
Oh,
past life-"
have you noticed that? I act so perfectly because I understand karma.
Well, it's because they know that in their past lives they were suffering, so now they're going to be wonderful to everyone else.
Oh, yeah, you think so?
And the world would be utopia.
No, but it's not true.
It's not becoming utopia.
Samsara can never become utopia because samsara is determined by the actions of body, speech, and mind that are contaminated with ignorance. Buddhas don't live in our world. They know it, but they don't live here because they don't create the cause to live here. Samsara is always a state of suffering. So there's a lot of explanation you need to put these pieces together. Just from the Buddhist point of view, you don't have to believe them or not, you know, and it doesn't matter if the whole world, nobody's trying, Buddhism doesn't encourage people to teach people who don't ask. In fact, you're supposed to ask 3 times for teachings because, you know, it's unsolicited advice otherwise, you know, so this isn't the point. And also there has to be many religions because we have different dispositions of mind. So Buddhism's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to be helpful. So we, you know, hopefully meet the spiritual path through our intention to keep wanting to grow our spiritual, our wish to be, you know, connected to others and to benefit them. You know, we meet different spiritual paths that will help us, you know, if we have that intention to meet them. We stumble on them like I did. Yeah. Am I doing too loud?
Perfect.
No. Okay. So,
Well, I've asked this question before, but I'm still not sure. Karma being specific. So if I kill somebody in a past life, will I be killed in another life?
Yep.
Or will I just suffer in
No.
different ways?
You'll have,
It-
first you'll go to hell.
Okay,
First, and then that exhaust, and then in a future life, you'll be reborn, as a human, because eventually some
hell,
good,
like hell on earth or like
no,
realm
hell realm. For a long, long time.
while I'm living, like,
No, after you die,
okay,
your consciousness will enter a hell realm being's body.
oh, okay.
It's spontaneous,
They're the same,
no sex involved.
same as a Christian hell.
No. You let go of that. We're talking apples and oranges here.
You said hell, so I'm wondering.
Yeah, it's just hell. I mean, this is translation terms. That's the trouble with jargon. So you'll be born in a suffering place, okay? And what happens in hell realms is that you get killed again and again and again and never die. So
get
you
killed
experience,
again and again and never die?
yeah, like you call up a tree that's made of razor blades and you get sliced into beans and you fall to the ground and then you get form again and you do it again. So they're really ugly. I don't recommend learning this. They're really ugly. But anyway, okay. And so then eventually, though, you exhaust all this stuff from ripening, you have a peaceful death, blah, 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 and you end up as a human again. I mean, it's going to take a few eons, Okay, so listen. So then in that, as a human being, you might experience illnesses. All our physical problems, they say, are the result of harming others. Someone could kill you. That's one of the effects. If you haven't purified these actions at all with your mind, you're going to experience the results. Okay. So this is why it's so important to learn about emptiness, because the only way to completely purify our past actions is to remove the basis for it. And our basis for our wrong actions of body, speech, and mind is our ignorance about how we exist. We can't purify everything we've ever done that's going to cause a negative effect without, in the meantime, causing new ones, until we get rid of the foundation of having these disturbing emotions to begin with, this ignorance to begin with. That purifies everything. When you realize emptiness directly and develop that, you have no basis anymore for anything other than positive actions of body, speech, and mind. They won't come up for you because you now know that it's this ridiculous story we've created from believing that we exist in a very permanent, fixed way that causes this kind of world with all this kind of suffering. That's hard to imagine, But our foundation of every disturbing thought that we have is self-grasping. It's this idea that we exist in a certain way, we are a certain way, and we have to protect it, and we have to hold, take care, and at any cost, protect this self.
I noticed that something that maybe upset me, a person said something that was very upsetting. And months later, I'm still looking at that.
Yeah, because you're grasping at yourself.
I'm attached to it being another way.
You're attached to your view of yourself, that this person, you felt with their words, harmed it in some way. And so we keep grasping after it. Oh, it can't be like that. And we want to prove that person wrong. So we keep it alive by all this worry about it. But its root is that we think there's something to hold on to that is us. So we think someone's words define us. What? I'm sorry.
It could be revenge.
Well, that's different. Holding on to it, and then that's how resentment forms. and belligerence. And then we become, then we're able to get revenge. And boy, we've just ruined our life. Because you're spending your whole time just being resentful. And you're just waiting for that moment. Oh, that's a really good use of your time. Yes, Elaine.
Can you just give a little capsule definition of emptiness, please?
Yes. Okay. So emptiness, it's emptiness of, right? Everything that's empty, what is it? The word just means it's empty of something, like my glass is going to be empty of water eventually, it's not now, When in Buddhism, they say emptiness, sometimes they say voidness. You'll hear different translation terms. What they're referring to is that living beings and objects, non-living beings, objects like the microphone, are empty of inherent existence. What does that mean? Inherent existence means there's something from the side of the object, something from the side of the person that screams what they are, basically. We confuse the fact that we have names and labels and we can call them as if that means there's something from the side of the object. And this is where all our troubles begin. It's not that every thought has that, we don't spend any time thinking about it really, that's, the ignorance is just pervasive. Things appear to us that way. As soon as we learn the name of something, it kind of becomes that, and then if somebody calls it something else, we're going, no, that's a microphone. We impute on objects and people an existence that isn't there. We think that we exist in some sort of, there's a Tendron over here that, that exists. And I hold on to that Tendron and try to protect that Tendron and try to give that Tendron what she wants, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
The trap is that we think that Tendron is permanent.
And we think that there's something there, period. Where is Tendron? It's a concept. Okay. What do we imbue that concept with? Go ahead, Jack.
So
Yeah, what is your name again?
Rick.
Rick. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Ben.
Back to you, Rick.
So you're saying an understanding of the concept of emptiness is purification, or is something else involved in purification?
Well, there's a lot of things that are involved in purification, but the best purifier is the realization of emptiness.
So what else is involved?
Nothing. Once we realize,
how do we purify?
that's separate. That's a separate subject. Okay. Because we can't purify every single thing in order to realize emptiness. That's not how it works. So emptiness is a way to purify everything all at once, realizing emptiness. Okay, so they're two separate subjects.
So if we understand emptiness,
You don't have any problems anymore.
it's that easy?
Oh yeah, have you noticed? Has anybody here quit grasping at the self for a second? No, it's not easy. But
I think I understand the concept of emptiness, maybe like 90%.
oh, that's cool. Good luck with that. So keep meditating
So
on
maybe
it.
I'm missing something.
No, keep meditating on it, because what you need is not an understanding of emptiness. You need the experience of it, to where no appearances arise at all.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or you wouldn't tell me if you were, because it's not useful. So, okay. So ignorance obscures our view. In fact, things appear to us as if they're inherently existent. That's how deep and pervasive our ignorance is. And it's been there since beginningless time. We have to remove it. It's a misapprehension of how things exist. It's not just being ignorant of how things exist. We actually think things exist in a way they do not. And we have to learn that it's not true. And it's very challenging. But if we never think about it, we will never do it. It's something, you have to work at. Fortunately, once you have this experience of emptiness, you never lose it. You're not, that's it. You're no longer stuck in this kind of existence. Because these appear, I can't even explain it. So we want to start, the way we can start to unravel this ignorance is by really thinking about, when I say Tendron, what do I mean by that? How do I hold myself to exist? And recognize that the way I hold myself to exist doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at all. It's not that I don't exist, but the way I hold myself to exist doesn't exist at all. And all my behaviors of body, speech, and mind come from that misapprehension. Come from, that's why we hold on to someone's words as if they can actually harm us. Because they can't harm us. But we think they can, because we think we have to protect our reputation. We think we have to protect ourselves. But what is that? Are you protecting yourself as a baby? Are you protecting yourself as a teenager? Are you protecting yourself as an adult? Are you protecting yourself on your deathbed? What is that? What moment of you is the person that you have to protect? The word I is just a label. As we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or sometime, maybe, 10 years ago, I don't know. And now I lost that. You see, I amused myself and lost my train of thought. So much for mindfulness. Okay. Elaine, did you ask your question?
I did, but I just think like we all have an identity. We would be psychotic if we didn't have the ability to distinguish one from the other. I mean,
Yeah.
I've worked with mentally ill people and
Okay, so let me
it's
address
about-
that. Okay, we have to have a healthy sense of self. We exist. That's not the problem. We do exist. We need to get that because we impact each other, So we need a healthy sense of self. We also want to develop a confidence that we have Buddha potential, that we can make ourselves way better than what we're doing right now, But this holding ourselves to exist in some inherent way, first of all, what would that mean? If there's something from my side that says Tendron, what would that mean? When I was born, what would it mean?
Can't change.
I'm sorry.
Can't change.
Well, not only that, nobody'd have to name me, would they? I'd be screaming Tendron because I'd be inherently Tendron. But no, Tendron's a name that was made up by Geshe Sopa. I mean, I'm literally made up. They take parts of different words and they make it up, Our parents do the same. Oh, that sounds like a good name. And then they try to think of all the ways in which it could be distorted by children to be mean. And they try to go, oh, maybe that's not such a good name.
So is the crux of it looking at ourselves as lacking independent self? Self.
That's the start.
Yes,
So at
yes.
the beginning,
Empty of dependent self.
yeah, but it goes further than that. So we need to understand that, yes, we are not independent, right? We're dependent arisings. And we're dependent in every moment. Our previous moment of mind has impact on our present moment of mind, which is why habits, we really have to look at our habits that are not skillful versus our habits that are skillful, because it matters. The fact that we are dependent, what else does that mean? What are we dependent on?
I think, oh, go ahead. I think there's like an interdependence. And if I am to, since I have Buddha nature, if I am to, work towards that end, I need other people in order to.
Okay, so let's make it simpler.
Okay.
What do we need to be born?
We know there's 10 parents,
Parents,
Wow.
okay, that have the right parts.
and then they need parents, and then they need a parent, and then
Okay, that's our body. So our body's dependent on that, right? Okay, according to Buddha, our minds are not physical. They are not just the brain or something. The brains are a convenient vehicle for our mind to be able to, like someone pointed out that human, brain is more sophisticated than a cat brain. And so we can do more with our minds in this body. Okay. Buddha doesn't need a body at all. I had a point. Okay. So according to the Buddha, you need a karmic seed ripening that the effect of being a human fits, which according to Buddhism is ethics and, all sorts of good qualities that you need, have to have created the cause to be born human. Isn't that interesting? Every human being, 7 billion human beings, all created the cause to be born human. Every life, no, the moment of death matters because it's the moment of mine before the first moment of mine in this new life. So it's huge. So we depend on an incredible number of causes and conditions. So this moment of mine right now is dependent on all the previous moments of mine. All my previous moments of mine in every life since beginningless time. I can't get around infinity. So anyway, it's wild. Okay. All our physical stuff also depends on countless causes and conditions. This microphone depends on countless causes and conditions to exist, but it exists. That's not in question in Buddhism. Why it exists is because all these causes and conditions came together, some of which was our consciousness acting on certain desires, I guess. Like, oh, when we get old, we lose some of our hearing, or we don't even have to be old, but we can lose our hearing, and it's nice if voices can be amplified. So we need to understand that being dependent isn't just, we're just dependent on a small thing. We are dependent on countless things. Only an enlightened mind can know all those things, because only an enlightened mind can pervade everything that exists and know. Okay. I'm trying to find a particular note, which is why I never look at my notes, because I can never find what I'm looking for. Phenomena are also dependent on parts. What are our parts?
Body, speech, and mind.
Body and mind. The body is what enables us to speak. I'm sorry? Yeah, 5 skandhas is 1 body and 4 states of mind. And everything else that goes with that.
Perception.
That's mind. So it's basically body and mind. All right. Those are our parts. How about the microphones parts?
There's a lot of parts.
There's a lot of parts. There's a lot of parts of us too. How about those 500 trillion microorganisms that live in us that aren't us, that aren't human? We need better glasses. Okay, so phenomena, they're dependent on causes and conditions to arise. They're dependent on their parts. So if you pointed at Tendron, where would you point? Okay, what would you be pointing at?
My perception of you as a whole person.
Oh, you think? What are you pointing at?
Pointing is what I think is you.
Pointing at the air.
That may be the concept that you're
Right.
thinking about, but what are you pointing at?
The nose.
So,
The body.
right. Okay.
We know each other through the body. That's how we recognize each other. It's through the body. Okay. Is that me? Let's hope not. There's sometimes in my life I might have said, oh, that's okay. Yeah, not now. Okay. So can you point at my mind? So you can just point it apart. Am I just the parts?
No.
No? Okay. Now, does my body have parts?
Yes.
Okay. Can you find the body in those parts? Is this my body? What is it?
It's a part.
It's a part of my body. And I should not raise my arm that way.
Oh.
I am having problems. My left arm. Ow. Ow, 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 ow. Okay. So we don't want this arm to be me. Okay. So can you point, so if we took this microphone apart, put it over here, all the parts, would it be a microphone?
No.
What would it be?
Parts.
Parts. What's missing when the parts are all over here?
Human integrity.
Function. Function. It can't function as a microphone. That's what's known as a valid base. Okay. For something to be a microphone, it has to have a valid base of a microphone. Now that means a lot of things, like we need to know what a microphone is supposed to do, A broken microphone, is it a microphone?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's still a microphone. That's just a broken microphone.
No, it's a table, it's a paperweight. When it can't serve the function of a microphone, it is not a microphone, but we inherently think it is. Oh, it's still a microphone. It's just a broken microphone. This is what ignorance causes us to do. We think once it's become a microphone, it's inherently a microphone. We think of that with our cars. Oh, there's my car going off to the salvage yard, Well, it's not your car. If it can't run and transport you from one place to another, or however, whatever the function of a car is, it's not a car. But we impute things, we impute this kind of like, oh no, I'm sorry, but it is a car. Might be a broken car, but it's my car. I'll keep it in the garage until they figure out a way to fix the car, till I have enough money to repair the car, We confuse the label with the function. That's what our ignorance does. We think, oh no, it's not just a collection of parts, It's a microphone. No matter where it goes, it's a microphone. We do it immediately. We learn the name. When a kid's just carrying it around, hitting all the, everything with it, and you're hoping it's not on, blah, blah, blah. And then you go, oh, that's a microphone. And then they learn that word. But then it becomes, and you get somebody else come and say, oh, that's a cat. And they're going to go, you're crazy. It's a microphone, you know. But we go beyond the label, the function, to seeing it as something that exists from its own side. There's a microphoneness that's, you know, there. Can't you see it? Mm-hmm. You know, this is a problem. So when our partner says something or does something that you cannot believe, there's a part of you that's going, my partner wouldn't say that or do that. That can be helpful in certain circumstances. But it's because we think there's a one way that it exists. You know, so like if your partner falls out of love with you and falls in love with someone else, are they your partner? How long does it take you to recognize they're no longer your partner? In some people, it takes, move on.
Next.
Yeah, next. For other people, it can take quite a long time because we're confusing the label with the function, with the transitory, momentary. Go ahead, Lee.
So what is our function then? So if I want to start thinking about this and sit in my meditation and start to like analyze it,
What's the function of a person?
I'm guessing to experience, perceive, what's the function of the mind?
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. This is the problem. When you try to think about your function, you think about the functions of the mind. You can't find you, can you? It's just a label on all these things of body and mind that change moment to moment, literally change moment to moment. You know, you go back and look at, you know, physical sciences and you find out, oh, in every moment, everything's going away and coming back up. Literally. All the atoms, electrons are going, you know, I mean, it's like we are constant motion. These things that we think are form.
Even as you're saying that, I'm grasping for the eye again, going, wait, no, because then I dissolve into nothingness as you're saying. And I'm like,
That's why it's so important not to over refute. You exist. That's not a problem. Like somebody said, we need a healthy sense of self. Yes, we need to have confidence. We can do things, all that kind of stuff. But we do not exist as a thing that doesn't change. That thing that you can, oh, here's me over here. I'm in control of this. That doesn't exist. Clearly, I'm not in control of this. I'd look a lot different if I was in control of this. So, you know, we do actions that are harmful to others because of this mistaken viewpoint. We really think it matters that someone has just said insulting words to us. So we have to get even. We have to say something clever and witty back that will cut them with the knees. If you were a teenager. So,
But
yeah.
then you're teaching them how to behave if you accept that, or
You think?
are you teaching them how to treat you? I mean,
Only if you stay.
right, okay. Well, yeah.
Whoa,
I
yeah.
mean, some people, well, you know, some people work through these things.
You have to decide that. But we can't change anyone else.
No,
We can only change ourselves.
right.
And it depends on whether you should do that or not. That's up to you. You know, no one else can make that decision for you. Sometimes people need to intervene because it's clear that if you stay, you're going to be killed. And that might not be your best option. Well, I mean, you know. So, and why would someone stay in a really harmful situation?
Attachment.
Disturbing emotions.
Yeah.
No wisdom here. You know, do we judge them?
Yes.
We do. But really the only correct response is to have compassion, both for the person being abused and for the person abusing. Both of them are, one of them's in hell right now, figuratively speaking. The other one's going there, not figuratively speaking. But also, if you try to imagine the mind of someone who is tormented with hatred, that says something about what I think about it. The fact that I said it's tormented. Someone whose mind is full with hatred, do you think it's pleasant? So we suffer right away due to our disturbing emotions. That's what they mean, disturbing, the word. Disturbing emotions mean when they arise in the mind, they're very unpeaceful. And it can, so it can be all kinds of. So the last thing that we have to, so not only do we have to recognize that we're not independent, that we are impermanent, transitory, all those kinds of things. Excuse me. We have to understand we are merely labeled. We exist as merely labeled. And that's where it starts to get much more subtle. Is really accepting that everything exists merely imputed by mind. That everything that exists is merely imputed by mind. It's sort of like the idea of, the little island that hasn't seen any other people ever anywhere, and some boat comes along, decides let's go to that island, and the people on the island, they don't see a boat because it's never been imputed by their minds. They had no base to label a boat until now. So before then, it doesn't exist for them at all. It hasn't been merely imputed by mind. Not their minds. It exists because it's been merely, it's imputed by mind somewhere else. So getting this idea that all these appearances that we think exist from their own side, we have to let go of in order to have a realization of emptiness. It's very hard work because it's about starting to undermine what we grasp after. Bit by bit, So at first, maybe we can get rid of a portion of 1% of the time. We don't think we're not grasping, But slowly, over time, we can start to understand that nothing exists the way we hold them to exist. So there's no reason to be surprised when people act unexpectedly. There's no reason to be surprised when things break. There's no reason to be surprised when your life circumstances change radically or even a little bit. It is kind of like how there's something that when you were, maybe 10 years ago, or maybe when you were a teenager, that you really adored. Let's just think of objects. There's some object that you really love. For me, it was my mother's 65 convertible Mustang. Really love it. Could I care less now? No, I couldn't care less. Mm-hmm. Don't care at all. Because, its appearance, I don't grasp after anymore, something that would bring me pleasure. Does that mean I've given up grasping? No, it just means I gave up grasping that. Took me a while because it got sold really early. So we need to understand that we imbue things with qualities that we make up. And that's not a good plan. So like this, you know, this need to have a label for that energy that you speak of, you know, I mean, it is, you know, it's just this ever chancing. We kind of had this idea that it wouldn't be worth existing if we didn't have all this story going on. But I try to think about what it must be like to be an enlightened being and have no appearances be arising from our ignorance. What would that mean? What wouldn't I have? I wouldn't have any suffering. Does that sound boring to anybody?
Could you repeat that really quickly, Tendron, please, what you just said?
I'm not sure. I'll try, Gary.
Maybe somebody can help.
If we were completely enlightened, what did I say?
What would
We
you
have?
not have?
What will we not have?
Appearance, something about appearance.
If we had no appearances arising from ignorance. This is just according to the Buddha's teachings, not what we know yet, you know. So we wouldn't have any suffering. Why? Because suffering is the result of negative actions, which are the result of ignorance. If you have no ignorance, that can't happen. Somebody, it was actually you, was talking about awe recently to me. And I really had this feeling that an enlightened mind exists in a state of awe. The Buddhist teachings describe it as a state of bliss. We think it might be nothing at all because we have a tendency to over-refute. You know, we think that, oh, if I don't exist this way, this sort of inherent way, I don't exist at all. That's because we're grasping at an eye, at the label. We have experience from moment to moment. It may not be physical. We don't need a body to exist. We do, never mind. Our minds have subtle bodies to travel with. So, but it's not like this at all. So I think it's worth every now and then to just try to imagine what it would be like with no worries, no threat of everything going wrong, like no threat of nuclear war, no threat of climate catastrophe, which is, you know, happening, no threat of our children being hurt, you know. If none of that existed for us, what are we left with? You know,
Peace.
oh, and this is what we need to look at. We need to find out, what am I grasping onto that makes me not want to look at changing my point of view? Just looking at it, not changing your point of view, that's different. You know, what keeps us from a kind of looking, and how do I exist? And that freaking out of like, ooh, I might not exist at all. That's a perfectly normal response. That's because, and it comes from our ignorance, thinking that we can't exist unless we exist in this concrete kind of, there's something from my own side that is me. And if you really knew me, you'd see it, you know. But it doesn't exist. That's a made up story I've got going. Did I answer your question? Or did I repeat myself? I don't even know. I remember you asked me to repeat it. I'm sure, you know, you'd almost have to listen to the recording to hear it. Because
Very much.
anyway. Okay, all right, we have 10 minutes. Any questions that are bubbling? Yes.
So we have a name and then we attach a concept to it. It's just a name that was given to us through mind, thought.
So it was a concept to begin with.
It was a concept to begin with. So like for me to drive in a car, I bought into concepts so that I don't break rules and.
Well, they exist. The car exists. We created the cause for it to exist. It exists. So you have to drive the car, yes, because that takes you from place to place. You don't have to drive a car, but you know
It's
what I mean.
experience after experience. So the thing is to use the concepts in the benefit of good, because we can't get away from them. We live in a world. that
We
has
can't get away
concepts.
from them. We can't get
We
away
can't
from
have
them
to
yet.
have them. So then how do
We don't
use them?
have to have them.
Oh. Oh.
They are an effect of the way we think. We do not need any of this gross phenomena to exist. Buddhas don't need any of this. We talk about the pure land of a Buddha. It arises as soon as someone becomes enlightened. They have their own little pure land. Who is that for? Non-enlightened beings who are close, but not there yet. So you teach bodhisattvas in a pure land. Buddhists don't need it. They do it to benefit others. I mean, it exists to benefit others. I don't think about it. It just exists in order to be able to have the kind of body that bodhisattvas can see. We benefited from the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, taking actually a human form, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to see him at all. Ordinary beings wouldn't be able to take teachings from him. Yes.
So Shakyamuni Buddha comes here, decides he's going to come because he's Buddha, but then he
Yes.
still is going through developmental stages.
No, he's demonstrating developmental stages.
Oh, that's so okay.
In our
So we're
tradition,
development by-
In the Mahayana tradition, it's, Shakyamuni Buddha was already enlightened.
demonstrate.
Yeah, so he's showing the 12 deeds of a Buddha, In other traditions, like the Theravadan tradition, they believe that he became enlightened in this life. It's just a different view. So there are different views. That's just why you argue, investigate, come to your own conclusions. This is why they debate in the Galupa monasteries. That can't be true.
So if we kill, there are at least two consequences: entering the hell realms and
If you don't
being,
purify it, yeah.
and being killed ourselves.
Mhm.
So
There are many consequences, yeah. One is poor health in the future, in some future life.
so which comes first?
The hell,
The hell realms?
yeah. They say like the bodhisattva who killed that ship captain bounced in the hells because his motivation, because he killed. Killing's a natural misdeed, meaning that no living being wants to be killed.
So that this idea of killing includes all sentient beings,
Yes,
including killing an ant.
yes. Yes, so you try not to kill ants. Yeah, that's the whole point, yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Are there gradations though?
Yeah,
depending on what you're killing?
The fact that human beings are able to become enlightened in that life, in the form of a human, as a human, means it's much more serious to kill them, because you are perhaps preventing them from becoming enlightened in that life.
Mhm.
That's the idea. Ants, not so much.
And the microbes that you were referring to earlier.
Yeah, we
they're-
can't-
They're not
we-
sentient.
I think some of them
Microbes.
are. Some of them are bacteria, more like
Right,
plants.
we kill bacteria all the time.
Yes, we do. We have, and look at the world we've been born into. You can't exist on this planet without killing. We created the cause for that. So if we develop the mind that first of all regrets that fact, I am so sorry that I created the cause, that my existence depends on the death of others. And we develop that mind very strongly. We can create the cause to be born somewhere where that's not true. We can't imagine it because we think this is the way a world is, not a consequence of our actions. In Buddhism, there's not one universe or one world, it's a multiverse. Are you tired? Okay. I love talking about the Dharma, but I get tired. It's like, okay, let me make sure I'm not making too many mistakes here. Okay. All right. So we'll be continuing this discussion. I hope it's fun for you. I think it's very worthwhile from the Buddhist perspective to try to, if nothing else, to just consider the possibility that things don't exist the way we think they do. Helps us move towards understanding. You know, we've talked a lot in this room about positive actions of, you know, kindness and compassion and, you know, generosity, ethics, and all these different states of mind. So we're just looking at the other wing. You know, that's one wing that gets you to enlightenment. We need two wings, and don't move your arm like that. And the other, you know, and the other one is understanding how things exist. That's the wisdom. We need the wisdom wing and we need the method wing. And the methods all is cultivating our good qualities, which, as someone pointed out earlier, I think Margaret, are dependent arisings. And what do they depend on? Others needing something from us. You know, we need people to need us in order to be generous, to be kind, to be patient. You know, we can't develop those as a, you know, on a boat with no other living beings with us. No. Okay, so now we want to take our intention at the beginning, you know, think about, you know, oh, really benefit others? Whatever the reason was that you showed up. And now we want to dedicate them. We want to spread the wealth around, because our positive actions of body, speech, and mind, which include things like, oh, maybe it's not the way I think it is. That's that question, you know, has positive results. And we want those positive results not to just benefit us, which they will. Nobody else can experience it. But we want to develop the mind that's always thinking about benefiting others. So we dedicate any positive causes we may have created for happiness in the future to benefit others. And so that's what our prayers about that are about. Okay, where do I want to go to? 46, yeah, I think, maybe 44. Yep, 246. So take a moment to rejoice that you followed through on some intention and that you're here. And I can't multitask at all. Ta-da. Okay. It's 240 something. 246. 246. So this prayer is just about trying to make us less the center of the universe and to think about others. So this merit, the merits in the first paragraph, the first stanza, is about our positive actions. They create the cause or merits for positive things to ripen. That's all. That's, you know, so it's just actions that are positive. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, Until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then on page 244 is a long life prayer for His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then we want to recite His Holiness's prayer for the quick return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, the founder of these centers. It's the one I handed out. I've got it up on the thing. I don't know if you can read it, but anyway. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. Those are the hearer Buddhas, here, you know, people in like different traditions. Pratyeka Buddhas, they're all Buddhas. Victorious Lozan, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. So what we're doing is we're asking for all the beings that are enlightened, all the bodhisattvas, you know, all those who've got some power from their accomplishments, like clairvoyance, to help us make this prayer come, you know, true. Obviously, we have to create the cause. For us to recognize the reincarnation, for us to meet Him in the future, we have to create the cause. And doing prayers like this is one of those causes. Okay. Holding and spreading the Muna's precious and complete teachings, Muni is the Buddha, through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Okay. Thank you very much for your participation. I thought it was a great discussion and stuff. And those and your presence, whether you talk or not. That's all. This is very